I hear you have a new position.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started here, Greg, real quick. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Schneider. With me is, we don't know that we're cousins. We don't think we're cousins, is a fellow Ivy Tech colleague, Greg Schneider. So it's good to have Greg here for our discipline dialogue discussion over ag and precision ag. Just some background for everyone on the call here. This is a new thing that we're doing for this school year, this academic year. In the past, we've had a K-14 dual credit summit with Ivy Tech. And one of the things that a lot of people find a lot of value in was the last breakout session, which were discipline dialogue. So all the ag instructors would get together with our ag content expert, and so would all the math and science and so on and so forth. This year, we did not do that just because of a couple different formatting changes and calendars and things like that. So we wanted to provide this opportunity for this discussion to still happen in a virtual setting. Hopefully we get a lot of people attending. This is a really good crowd here. And if we get a lot of robust crowds like this, we'll probably keep doing this in the future, next academic year. So we do have a slide agenda that will go, but it's really more just of a casual thing than anything else, to try to keep the conversation moving. Feel free, if you have any questions, to ask them during this discussion. I know Greg will be happy to answer anything that anyone has on the top of their mind. And then as he gets going and introducing himself, I will put in the chat a Google form for everyone to fill out so they can get some professional growth points. So I will do that. And while I'm doing that, Greg, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure, I recognize a lot of names and faces on the call. My name is Greg Schneider. Prior to coming to Ivy Tech, I was a high school agriculture teacher for 30 years, 24 years at Southwestern in Hanover, Indiana. And the last 6 years of my career were in Greensburg, Indiana. Rule of 85 said I had enough time in where I could retire, but my youngest at the time was 14 years old. So the rule of Sarah said I need to find another gig for the next 8 or 10 years. So I now work at Ivy Tech in the Madison campus. And one of the jobs I have is overseeing dual credit for the Madison service area as well as Lawrenceburg, Batesville. And I also serve on the state committee, K-14 Academic Advisory Council.
Okay, well, thank you, Greg. We appreciate all of your hard work, both as a former dual credit instructor and as on the academic advisory committee. And it's good to see so many people on here. I see some people from my old Columbus days when I was a K-14 director. Of course, Elisa is on here. Also former classmate, Columbus East class of 05, go Olympians. Jennifer as well, seeing a lot of Greg, some other people on here. So it's good to see a good, robust discussion. So kind of first thing here, Greg, as we get started, just as your time as a dual credit instructor, but then also in your time as a program chair, looking at, kind of from the Ivy Tech perspective, is there anything that is a best practice that stands out that maybe, especially now with your program chair hat on, that you think that, would be good for dual credit instructors to know, since you've kind of played both, had a foot in both worlds, so to
Sure.
speak, for the last decade or two?
A couple things I would suggest. First of all, lean on your program chair that serves your service area for support in helping figure out how to navigate the dual credit space. That's my role. That I have 19 teachers that I work with, 11 different agriculture programs, and I try to stay in contact with them as much as possible to provide that support. I know from my time, I taught dual credit for, I'm thinking it was 12 or 15 years, from the beginning to when I retired. And I know that the concept of dual credit can be challenging. The idea of teaching with rigor, what is rigor, that's always been a moving target. So one of my roles as dual credit supervisor is to help answer those questions for you. And I think I speak for all program chairs that serve in that capacity that we're here to support.
And just real quick, I am putting in the chat, since you mentioned your dual credit instructors that you help oversee at the Madison campus. If anyone, for whatever reason, can't remember who their program chair is, I have the program chairs listed by campus on this document. I'll also put out our fancy map that the marketing folks made last year to help kind of sort out some of those things. If there are any questions right now. Next thing, kind of, Greg, to touch upon, some programs and disciplines have very specific, credentialing requirements, but oftentimes with that, we'll have professional development opportunities, whether it is internal to the college, maybe some sort of event we're hosting or something like that. But then oftentimes we'll also have, external opportunities with different maybe state agencies or industry partners, things like that. Do you have any recommendations for professional development opportunities for our instructors as they, consider some of the things that are coming down the road for them?
Oh, I would say anytime winter workshop, and Greg Curlin, you can chime in on this one. Anytime you have the opportunity to seek professional development, whether it's generated internally through the Indiana Ag Teacher Association, or if it is industry related, when you go to the national convention, there's always several different types of workshops that are available that can kind of give you a leg up. So I would suggest just take advantage of what opportunities are out there. One of the things I loved about being an agriculture teacher is there is always a lot of industry support in providing training and opportunities.
And real quick, is there a cost associated with that? I don't know that, just for my own general knowledge.
That depends on what the situation is in terms of who's offering the training. The other option is case curriculum. I don't know how many people have been to a case training in the past. And there is a cost associated with that, but a lot of times you can find grants that would cover that.
Yeah.
And that always, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to plug, we do have a different grant this year. Just thinking out loud as you mentioned that, through the Commission for Higher Education, we have the Perkins Reserve Grant, and it's actually through CareerLink this year. So there might not be as much of an angle this summer with it, but talking about some of those different fall trainings and winter trainings and stuff like that, especially for maybe instructors wanting to start doing precision ag, if there are certain certifications and stuff that goes with that. We'll probably have some dollars available this fall. So if anyone is very interested in obtaining some of those certifications, do reach out to your K-14 directors. They can get in touch with me. I'll also put my email in the chat at the end. We can save your information so that way we can get a hold of you if and when that happens later in the fall or winter. Okay, next thing. Okay, this I think will be kind of a softball for Greg. Nothing too far to reach for here. Greg, is there any hot topics or anything in the ag dual credit space that maybe should be mentioned to bring awareness to the group right now?
Well, Mark, has there been an official announcement regarding the addition of 102 to 100 in the principal lineup?
We get the rough draft on Friday, is what I was told, but it's coming.
Okay.
I don't know when. Government bureaucracy, so it moves slowly, but I was told we get the draft Friday.
So I welcome to open up the floor to comments, questions, kindly worded suggestions in terms of that decision to go ahead and put the addition of 100 and 102 together, which is the Introduction to Agriculture and Agribusiness Management.
Yeah, and so just for some background from the administrative perspective, which I did not make this decision, by the way, or anything like that, that's all NLPS and Office of CTE and Tony Harrell. The traditionally principles of the NLPS pathway has just been Ag 100 for all the different ag pathways. And then the powers that be have decided starting next year for all of the principles of ag courses, instead of just teaching the Ag 100 course objectives and course, there will be Ag 100 and also Ag 102, which is the business course of it.
Are there any things in the works that would add dual credits for the vet science pathway?
So specifically for vet science, not at this moment right now. I know that well, Greg might even know maybe a little bit about it. I know there's a pilot of some vet type stuff through the Madison campus, or at least I've heard that that's maybe going to happen. But for it to be offered for dual credit, it really needs to be able to be offered statewide and also be an established program, not a pilot program as such. So I could see it happening one day in the future. But really the vet program type thing would probably be optimistically maybe 3 years out if I had to kind of guess on stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
the timeline for launching veterinary nursing at the Madison campus is fall of 25. So I think we would need to be able to get our feet under us to get going with that before we could look at offering dual credit in that regard.
Yeah. And
However, I think ALS animals is on that pathway.
Yes,
Yep.
ALS Animals is on there. The problem is with the state of Indiana, with their fulfilling their buckets for their graduation, they need that 6 dual credits to fulfill a bucket. And when they come into just a vet science pathway, that's not working. And so that's why I was asking about it. Because we just get the 3 credits for the ALS Animals, which is the AGRI 107.
Mhm. Yeah, so kind of going off of what Greg's timeline was, where he mentioned fall of 25, probably would need 2 academic years or school years to kind of solidify that, but then also see if any other campuses would be able to offer that. Just because if it was to be a very high demand course across the state in terms of dual credit, then we would need to make sure that we have the faculty across the state able to support that, because otherwise it could be one person at the Madison campus supporting 50 teachers across the state. We have to make sure that that gets scaled up properly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. We get that question about about this time every year when MOU meetings are happening about different offerings and stuff. Very valid question. Okay, Greg, next kind of on the agenda here, do we have any like OER materials, so kind of like online materials that you would recommend for instructors to utilize as they plan out some of their dual credit courses, not only for what's left of this year, but in subsequent years, maybe as they think about adding Ag 102 and how that works with their stuff. Are there any materials that's kind of ready to go that can help lighten the load of lesson planning and things like that?
Sure. Thanks for asking that one, Mark. I'm currently working on the summer professional development, and there'll be some materials in that learning shelf that will be of assistance. I also talked to Matt John at the Columbus campus. At one time, he made a screencastify video on how to navigate. I realize Ivy Learn can be a foreign space if you don't use that particular platform in your high school. So how to navigate that space if you want to utilize that as a resource. Again, I would say though, your best resource that you have and the best connection you can have to online resources is your dual credit supervisor in whatever service area you're at, because I know that's the person that you're going to have that relationship with. That's the person that's going to show up at your school, that's going to do the onboarding. So I'd really encourage you to reach out to them with any questions that you have in terms of whether it's navigating Ivy Learn, helping get your students signed up for the online portion of the class, whatever we can do, we're here to serve.
Yeah, so thank you on that. I'm putting in the chat next a Google Drive that links up to our syllabi for our ag courses right there. So as you are getting ready to do, your planning for next year, of course, one of the things that we're required to gather from everyone as a dual credit instructor are, of course, syllabi. I know Greg's been working on this. I actually got an email from him yesterday, today, sometime here. Hopefully you weren't working on it while you were watching the eclipse, but he's been updating the syllabi in there. for all of our dual credit instructors. Now, there still are some things in that you will have to update, like you have to put your name, the correct academic year in there, some of the calendar stuff. But in the past, we've had just kind of a generic template for all of our dual credit courses. And so what we're trying to do moving forward, starting next year, is to have a course by course syllabus template ready to go. So that way that can help kind of minimize some of the stuff that you have to do. So that way, like the course objectives are in there, like all the legalities that have to be in there as well. And then really it's just kind of a plug and play for just a handful of things. So we've tried to lighten that load on it. Greg, I don't know if you have any comments or anything that kind of popped up, or maybe it's just a simple, it's ready to go too.
Yeah, no, well, first, it's ready to go. But I'll also add that all the copying and pasting I've taken care of. So when you get into that summer professional development learning shell, all the syllabi, the templates are already there. If it is required for you to do, it is in red, italicized red. If it is optional, I've made it blue and I highlighted optional. And if it's optional and you choose not to do it, just please delete that off there completely. So I have it color coded and ready to go. If you have any questions on those templates, you're welcome to contact me directly, just because I was the person that loaded them up there. So I'll own any mistakes that are in it. So, and all the great things that happen as a result. So please feel free to reach out to me directly.
And so as we keep moving here, I did put in the chat in case anyone joined us late. I have our Google form that you can fill out, so that way you can make sure you get the professional growth points. Make sure you do fill that out so we can keep track of attendance and other things like that as we move forward with it. And you can get your PGP points for license renewal. So with that being said, I will put my name in the chat if anyone has any particular questions. Greg, if you could do the same, you've put your name and email in there for anyone to reach out. So that way we can answer any questions offline that people might have as things pop up and come and go. Or if someone watches the recording, they'll have access to that as well. So that's kind of the outline, or we've gone through the outline of our agenda for discussion topics. So with that being said, we'll open it up here for Q&A. Of course, Greg, if you have anything else to add, feel free to do that. But if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that they would like to share, please come off mute, and we're happy to have that dialogue.
I'll add something. I remember one time years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was at the Indiana FFA Leadership Center, and I was in a meeting with Mel, and Mel gave me a pro tip that I never forgot. The easiest way to feed mice in your classroom is with a 50-pound bag of horse feed. You can feed mice for a long time that way. And I never forgot that tip. And there have been so many tips I've gotten from other ag teachers over the years. So as you look at dual credit and the challenges, and I'm going to say, if I were in your shoes and I was looking at merging introduction to agriculture and ag business management and putting them together, there are going to be some challenges you need to work through. I'm here to support you. Ivy Tech's here to support you, but I also get a lot of great ideas from all of you. So if there is, as we look forward to moving into that space, if there is other times we need to meet to talk about how to make it work, what would make it work, how it needs to look, does it need to look different? I can't promise in terms of what Mark and I are able to do, but I'm 100% sure that between the two of us, we can come up with some ideas. So I would love to hear from you all right now. What are your hopes, dreams, fears about seeing that change that's coming down the road? Feel free to come off mute.
I have a question.
Thank you, Elisa. Elisa, go.
So when we first started talking about this principles thing, and it changing from what we were used to and what you guys were used to and all of that, there was curriculum that we had to cover. There were modules that we were supposed to be covering in our classes. And so I guess my question moving forward, as we combine this principles with agribusiness, this year there aren't modules. I have it in my curriculum map to have time set aside for that, but there isn't anything in there for them to access. Or maybe I'm just not smart enough to find it, but it's not in there. So as we move forward, is that something that we can expect with dual credit classes? Will there be curriculum, things that we have to cover exactly as they're being covered on campus at Ivy Tech? So as we plan, do we need to set aside time for that, or are we on our own?
Mark, you can chime in. I'll go ahead and start. I'll say one of the things that I didn't realize until I started working at Ivy Tech is Ivy Tech classes are predicated on 48 contact hours that the students have. So, as a high school agriculture teacher, you all have 180, roughly 180 contact hours. So first, the requirements for Ivy Tech are far less than what you all are currently doing. And with regards to the online support, I know that some program chairs are doing outside contracts and creating online courses that you all have access to as well. So the curriculum that you're referring to, I believe will be coming, and I'll follow up on that and let you know, Lisa. But I also want to encourage you all to realize that when we talk about taking agribusiness management and bringing it together with Introduction to Agriculture, you still have 48. So you have 42 hours of wiggle room with how to make that all come together. Is that making sense?
So, and then I would add, not being a curriculum expert on ag, but just how things kind of work in general across all of our programs. We do have some course shells, but the course shells vary depending on what is allowed to be shared out with our dual credit teachers. And that's mainly just because of the cost that's associated with it and copyright and trademarks and things like that. So for courses where, like in dual enrollment situations, all that's available to the students because there's a cost that's being paid there to support all of that. But since dual credit is free and there is no cost to students for that, a lot of times there are things that are not like different course shells that are just built on copyrighted material that we can't share out because of the costs and copyright infringements and things like that. I would encourage you to reach out to Matt John or anyone else to reach out to their program chair. Oftentimes they have things that are very comparable that are free that can help kind of supplement some of those things. But it's generally speaking, the stuff that we have on campus doesn't always work with the dual credit stuff because of that cost. But with the academic freedom aspect of college instructors, as long as you're meeting once again, speaking in broad terms, as long as you're meeting the course objectives one way or another, there's a lot of latitude in how you meet those objectives. So usually they're not too prescribed, but if they are, your program chair should loop you in on some of that. Some other things to add to, just to let everyone know or just put on people's radar. Oftentimes during the summer, sometimes people have some extra hours or maybe even during the school year and are looking for a side gig to make a few extra dollars. We do have different opportunities. It's on a campus by campus basis. So some campuses, not possible at the moment. Other campuses are actively looking for part-time college instructors, and you as a dual credit instructor meet our credentialing standards. And so oftentimes when our campuses are looking for part-time adjuncts to teach a course or two over the summer or fall or spring semesters, we look for our dual credit instructors to teach a course. So if you are interested in doing that, maybe it's an online class, maybe it's a class on campus, which is probably more likely with the ag courses. But do keep that in mind. It's a way to make a little extra money. Really there's no downside to it if you're willing and able. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention we are in the middle of our free summer program for high school students. We are doing that again, once again this year with all high school students. So that is current students who are graduating this spring all the way through what will be incoming freshmen, so 8th grade students, although there probably won't be too many 8th grade students signing up for free courses with us, or so will be a handful across the state. But if a high school student comes to Ivy Tech or gets online and signs up for a course this summer, it's 100% free to the student. So the tuition's covered, books are covered. If there's a consumable fee for it, that's covered as well. So like if a student wants to start welding, you have a 16-year-old that's interested in welding, they don't have it at the high school or, the career center, come to campus, we'll sign you up. We'll give you all the equipment for free. It's all 100% free. There are no catches for that for this summer. So do keep that in mind. Registration for summer is ongoing. I think classes start June 5th, something like that. So we got a little less than 2 months. But any high school student can take any course with us for free this summer. So whether it's English 111, Ag 100, anything like that, 100% free. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for joining today. Once again, one more time in the chat, I will put the form for everyone to fill out, so that way you can get your PGP points for your teaching license. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to myself, to Greg, to your program chair. Greg and I put our emails in there. We're happy to respond however we can. We really do appreciate everything that you are doing as a dual credit instructor. Of course, it's helping your students, but also unlocking a lot of opportunities for them. Our ag program is often one of the most cited programs. I was just at a conference in Washington, D.C. last week, and our ag program was mentioned in passing by a lobbyist from Washington, D.C. I have no idea how he knew about our ag program, but he mentioned it. And so it's, nationally renowned and known, and we appreciate all the work that all of you do. So I'll hang on here for another minute, but if there's no other questions, feel free to drop off. And thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week and have a good rest of your school year. Greg, looks like you want to say something real quick.
Yeah, I also want to reiterate, my email address is in the chat. Please copy that. Keep it laminated, carry it around in your wallet, refer to it often. I am more than happy to assist with any questions. I was in your shoes for 30 years, and I understand that dual credit can be daunting at times, and I'm glad to help you navigate that space. So consider me a resource. Even if you're not in my service area, please consider me a resource and don't hesitate to reach out.
I know it's not always easy at times, having to do some of the extra dual credit responsibilities that go with it to provide those opportunities to your students. But myself, Greg, we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can to help lighten that load that goes with that. So we really do, though, appreciate, on behalf of the college, appreciate everything that you're doing for your students.
Great. Curlin, I see you turned on your camera.
I started to say just a couple quick things. I know waiting for that final announcement about the ag business management, where it's going to be, and making sure those standards that teachers will have curriculum to work with. I think we're going to be looking at that on the 17th, but also I guess on the long term, the new diploma path 2029. We're also taking a look at that and how dual credits apply and how that whole system works, because there's several options. So I got a feeling we'll probably be looking at that as well, and maybe addressing a capstone or two, how we can apply that. I think it's going to be a concern a little bit, but I think it's workable. At first, everybody was a little bit upset and concerned, but I think it's very workable. We can make it happen. So just want to add that in.
Yeah, and just kind of going off of that, we were at the announcement, I think it was like March 27th with the new graduation requirements. There's a lot to kind of digest with it. It's in proposal phase right now, public comment period, which will happen a couple of times. So what they announced last couple weeks ago, not the final draft. We do have a few questions, just Ivy Tech in general, about how a couple of things are going to work. But I do think ag, especially, is maybe more uniquely positioned for some of the work-based learning potential requirements that are going to be out there. I think, just my opinion, I think there are going to be some programs that are going to really have a high hurdle to jump over to try to get some of those work-based learning apprenticeship type stuff going, and assuming that it doesn't change from the proposal. But I think ag is one of the more uniquely positioned ones where they can leverage a lot of things that are already kind of in place for that. But it'll definitely be a discussion for the fall once the state board starts voting and approving different things. There's a state board meeting tomorrow morning. I'm sure they'll have some comments about it, but yeah, a lot of interesting things kind of coming down the pipeline, and we'll just kind of have to see how things shake out. But we have been in those meetings offering our dual credit perspective with it. Just lots of interest in it.
And on that front, please consider me a resource as well. My day job at Ivy Tech is working in the CareerLink office, and I oversee work-based learning opportunities for the students. So as you start moving into that space in a more formal aspect, I'm glad to assist you with that.
Okay. Well, thanks again to everyone for joining. As we've said several times, consider us a resource. Thanks for all you do, and have a good rest of your day.